Hello to all my fellow glorious Gaians. Thank you for joining me, Amber, on my channel, Guidance Through Gaia, where I do tarot pick-a-card readings. If this is your first time here today, welcome, and I hope that you find something that resonates here with you. And if you are a returning viewer, then thank you for giving me another opportunity to read for your energy today. I am available for personal readings. If anybody is interested, you can find my contact information in the description box down below. Just shoot me an email and I will send you a list of my services. And if those interest you, then we can get the ball rolling with that. So today's topic is, how will you recognize your soulmate? I am going to be breaking that question down into finer categories. And we're going to be using a combination of the Star Codes, Astro Oracle, and Tarot cards to answer those questions. So the categories are going to include internal signs or signs from the self, external signs, signs from the other person. And then we're also just going to take a look, and this could be kind of like an advice portion, if you will, at expectations you can set and boundaries you can set that will help you better assess if somebody is your soulmate or not. And then we will be looking at a very brief glimpse of something that will happen during your first meeting, or if you just want to like kind of confirm about somebody that you already know. This can describe something that has already happened. I am going to be laying out the Astro Oracle cards before I do the reading, just because I want to make sure that I study up on the book information a little bit before I delve too deeply into it. But that being said, let's get into your pile selections. We have group number 1 with the hair scrunchie. Group number 2 with the marble soda. And group number 3 with the sofa that says sofa, so good. So go ahead, take your time, and I will see you at your pile, or hell, if you want piles. Bye. Hello, group number 1. If you chose the hair tie scrunchie, then this will be your reading on how to identify your soulmate. Now, if you've seen my videos before with any identifiers such as gems or stickers, a lot of times I will use these, I will incorporate them into the reading, but I'm going to wait for that until like the very, very end. Ha ha ha. So we're going to see what that has to say last. But these are the cards that I shuffled. I have already looked at them, but we're going to go through them group by group, and this is going to be let's see, signs from yourself that you have met your soulmate, signs that are like external validations, then signs from the partner, and then we will get into boundaries you can establish to get closer to meeting that person or to recognize that person more intuitively, and then expectations you can establish. I flipped them over just so that we focus one at a time, and as we flip them, we will also get tarot cards to kind of give us some more in-depth information. Okay? I'm really excited. I don't know. I get nervous trying out new spreads, but like I also get really excited because I'm like, oh, let's do something fun. So signs from yourself that you have met your soulmate. We have the card number 4 with Cancer and Immerse. So before I talk about that too in depth, as I just established, I want to get a little bit more detailed information. Let's get a little bit more specific. Okay, can you clarify Cancer card, please. Representing the sign from the self that will identify to group 1 that they have met their soulmate. Okay, we've got the 8 of Pentacles here. You know, I'm just going to leave it at that. So the sign from the self. Cancers are a water element, and that deals all with emotions and creativity. They are known for being individuals who kind of have a tough outer exterior and struggle with being vulnerable. They also have a tendency of taking care of others and kind of neglecting their own needs. There's this sense of hyper independence with Cancerian energy. But the beautiful thing about this card being upright, it's indicating that there's a balance here, group number 1, that you have at this point, when you've met this person, you have learned how to, or just are naturally able to, care for others without overextending yourself. You are able to express your emotions, your needs, your concerns, without feeling in danger. I know that's a little bit dramatic to say, but you've mastered, really, and I say that because we have the 8 of Pentacles here. You have really mastered the ability to feel in control of yourself, to be vulnerable, without feeling like you're risking your personal safety or you're risking your integrity. This could be due to a process of you just working through it, even before you meet this person. A lot of times we talk about, when we are searching, for those of us who want romantic love, because not everybody does. But for those of us who want romantic love, we're often encouraged to work on our own emotional healing and develop that confidence so that we can attract healthy partners. It's the idea kind of which I don't necessarily agree with, but I think there is a level of validity to the sentiment of nobody can love you until you love yourself first. I don't, like I said, agree with that. I think people can love you without you loving yourself. But I think relationships are more sustainable when we love ourselves. And so you may be, even before you meet this person, in this period of working on healing, working on creating emotional stability. I feel like there's something I'm missing with this card. It's basically because it's in the gift position. It's talking about essentially being able to hold your own even when the circumstances around you are tumultuous and chaotic. So you may be in a position where you have worked to build yourself into a confident and emotionally stable and expressive, emotionally mature individual who is able to care for others, but also make sure that you're caring for yourself. And the Eight of Pentacles here really is talking about mastery. It's interesting that we have a water element here as kind of a defining sign, the defining characteristic of this internal sign. And then it's clarified by a coin card, an earth card. So it could be that at some point you really overcome some hurdles in this journey of self-improvement. And that's when your soulmate enters into your life. And you can recognize them because you feel more free. You know, you feel more prepared to be open to love and to express affection while also maintaining a level of like self-respect and self-discipline. It could also be that when you meet your soulmate, this person is somebody that you feel safe around. This person is somebody that you feel you can express yourself to. This person is somebody who doesn't force you or encourage you to take care of them so much that you're neglecting your own needs. And in fact, they are likely somebody who is going to also take care of you. And you may not be used to that. And in fact, because we're looking at this as like an internal sign, you know, a sign from the self, you may be more receptive to allowing them to care for you because maybe you have had partners in the past or even friendships or family members where they wanted to help you and you refused that help because for whatever reason you didn't feel comfortable accepting it. Maybe you felt like it said something about you negatively. Maybe you felt that it compromised your independence. Maybe you felt like it made you weak or you just didn't know how to accept it. This person, I think, is somebody who, when they come into your life, you're going to feel comfortable accepting it. Or at the very least, you're comfortable with being a little uncomfortable, where it's like, I may not be used to this kind of treatment, but I'm going to let myself accept it because I know that I deserve it. Oh my God, I'm getting teary. And one thing I love about this card here, because even though it is a coins card, it's an earth card, like these people look like they're having so much fun. You know, it's almost as if there's this emotional weight that's lifted off of you. And, you know, if this were a different card here, I might be willing to interpret either one of these individuals as representing you. But because we're talking about balance here and Cancer energy, you know, at its highest form is about allowing yourself to be cared for as well. I'm interpreting this feminine character here as you know, allowing yourself to be carried by somebody else at times and enjoying the process of wading through the waters. Not feeling like you are responsible for the brunt of the environment, of the stability of the relationship. You know, there's just such harmony and peace and happiness and carefree emotions to this card. Now we're going to look at external signs, okay, that are going to indicate that you have met your soulmate. Now this could be just like signs from the universe. You know, we could look at them as like psychic signs. It could be symbols. It could be events that occur in your lifetime, things that you see. But let's take a look before we get too much into theorizing. So we've got card 24 with Saturn and structure. Saturn is seen as, in our birth chart, it can be seen as a difficult placement because it is all about like restrictions and structure. This makes me think very much of the Hierophant card. And if I recall correctly, Saturn rules Capricorn, and it is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. And so Capricorn energy is often represented by like the devil, you know, something that an energy that is very hyper fixated on things, and sometimes places too strict limitations and expectations on themselves. And Capricorn always makes me think of like daddy energy. Not gonna lie, to me, they're like the big business, head. And then with Aquarius energy, sometimes people see Aquarians as being emotionally distant. What I love about Aquarius energy is that it's able to think outside of the box. It sees the restraints and it says, those aren't meant for me. Those are for other people. My best friend is an Aquarius. But Saturn energy doesn't have to be a negative. It could be, which I do not know much about this phenomenon. So if you want to learn more about it, and you don't already know, you can research it. Like, this may happen around one of your Saturn returns. I think Saturn returns are supposed to be a little bit difficult. I'm not entirely sure. But let's see what specific information we can get regarding this card and the external signs that you have met your soulmate.
Hi, puppies.
Yes, we'll go outside in a bit. Okay, please define this Saturn card as it applies to the external. This is way too many. I'm sorry. That was like celestial word vomit there. Can I get a very clear, concise, direct, simple response? Okay. So we have the Five of Pentacles with the Death card. So what that tells me is around this time frame, there is likely going to be a very abrupt change that may on the surface seem negative. When I got this Saturn card, I was immediately thinking of maybe your life becoming more structured. You could, be moving into a new place. You could be getting a new job, establishing your own business. Anything to do with creating structure, anything to do with like, what would they call it? Like institutions or foundations. And that could still be true, but I feel like what this is indicating is if those things occur, it's because it's kind of forced. So if you get a new job, it's because you lost your old one. The Five of Pentacles here is about feeling a sense of lack. A lot of times we see a depiction of one or two people who are outside of a church in the freezing cold. A church is supposed to allow individuals who are in need of assistance into their doors, and yet these people are locked out in inclement weather. In this situation, we mostly have a somewhat kind of positive card here. It's a lot of it, I think, is because it is a romance tarot deck. But you've got this woman who's kind of like lounging on this man who's a little flushed, and then you've got these other two characters that are behind them that are not really involved. So I think that there is a major change that happens in your life that kind of ejects you from a situation. It could be a loss of a job. It could be failing a class, having to drop out of a program. It could be the loss of a legal battle. It could be being evicted from home or having to even just leave home. So for instance, if you know that like your rent is raising or whatever and you can't afford to live there anymore, and you have to look for someplace else, or you and your roommates aren't getting along, and so kind of the short straw fell on you and you have to find a new place and not the other roommates. What's interesting though is that I feel like this card, this situation could potentially influence this development here. Either you get to a point where you were so stressed out and this happens and you're just like, I don't even care anymore. I'm not going to stress about these things anymore. Like, I know I'll figure it out, or I know the universe got me, or, something else will happen. Like, something else will come along my way. Or you already kind of establish this sense of peace and calm and balance. And so when this does happen, it doesn't affect you as much. I just feel like it's really important to clarify, even though we're talking about like signs that you're meeting your soulmate. I feel like it was kind of important to address for those of you who haven't already experienced this, that there is somewhat of a correlation here. But you'll be going through, I think, a very abrupt change when you meet this person, okay? And so now we're going to look at signs from your partner, signs from the partner that you have met, that they're your soulmate. So we've got Scorpio with investigate in reverse. And then we have, and that's card number 8. And then we have 48 with 10th house authority. And that is upright. And one thing I want to say here is we have a lot of 4s and we have a lot of 8s. And then a 2. To me, that talks about, when we have a 2, we have a decision to make. Or even like just a partnership. 4 is about foundations, and then 8 is about mastery. So 4s and 8s, especially, maybe 2s, could be significant to you. But we're going to look at any specific information we have regarding the sign that from the partner that they are your soulmate. Can you give me specific information about the cards on how the partner will prove they are the soulmate? The signs from the partner that they're the soulmate. Okay. So we have some pretty significant cards here. We have the Chariot. And we have the Lovers in reverse. Now, it's interesting we talked about choices just a moment ago, because the Lovers, while it is a very romantic card and it does talk about like soulmates and destiny and stuff, it is also a card of like making a decision. And I would say that the Chariot card is also about making a decision. Which way are we going to go? Scorpio energy is also, like Cancer, a water. I just saw 2233. It is a water element, so it's about emotions and creativity. Scorpios can be seen as individuals who are very, very intense, especially when they are in their like more shadow aspect, or their like unevolved or unhealed aspect. Scorpios can be seen as like very obsessive, and they can be seen as very like mysterious. Scorpio it might have a traditional ruler, I can't recall. But currently it's represented as being ruled by Pluto. So it's a very transformative energy. It's all about death and rebirth, which, hey, we have that we have that right here. Scorpio energy and the death card. And what that demonstrates to me is that this could be somebody who has had a lot of struggles in their past. Somebody who may have struggled through things like addiction, abuse, poverty, mental health ordeals. And some of those things may still be present when you meet them, or they may not. But at the very least, here with the 10th house, when we see that authority card, what that's demonstrating is that they are not allowing themselves to be controlled by the difficulties of their past or the darkness of their inner reality. So if this is somebody who struggles with mental health issues, they are somebody who actively seeks help for it. If they know, one of the things this card talks about in reverse is talking about like obsession and possessiveness and aggression. If they've ever had those kind of tendencies, this is something that they have worked on, or when they meet you, they begin to work on. There are some people who will just kind of present themselves as, I am who I am, love me or leave me. And while there are healthy ways to embody that energy, it's not healthy to expect a partner to accept unhealthy behaviors. And so this is somebody who does have a high level of awareness. They are very much willing to take accountability for their behaviors and for their actions. And I feel like this is a person who doesn't really believe in destiny. If they are spiritual, they see themselves as like a co-creator. But they're not somebody who subscribes to the idea of, the son paying for the sins of the father. Whatever struggles, like if their parents dealt with struggles, and this person as a child like bore witness to that, they very much have decided, like, that's not going to be me. That's not the path that I take. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to have a family that embodies that kind of energy. If there are people who have doubted them in the past, they don't give in to that doubt. They don't allow other people's judgments to decide their self-worth. And this is an energy of, even if they don't know where they're going right now, they're going to figure it out. And then they will make the plan to get there. And I love that. I love that. This is somebody who is willing to take the initiative. And I feel like it's more so for themselves. I don't feel like they're really trying to take the initiative for anybody else. But if you've been, especially since we've had this Cancer energy over here, wow, that's making so much sense now. But this Cancer energy over here where like you may have previously just overextended yourself to provide for others and care for others, and to kind of put your needs behind and maybe overlook the toxic behaviors of other people in your life. You're going to meet this person and you're going to be blown away because you're like, oh my God, you're holding yourself accountable. Like, I told you I didn't like something, and so you change that behavior. Or like, I did something that you didn't like, and you talked with me about it. I think part of the way that they'll demonstrate to you that they are your soulmate is that they are willing to grow, and they are willing to respect you, and they are willing to take accountability for themselves. So let's get into some boundaries. This is kind of, I guess, like an advice portion, where, what can you do to make sure that you get closer to this person, closer to meeting this person, closer to identifying this person. And so this is going to be what boundaries you can establish. We have rebirth, Pluto, 27 in reverse. And then we have 53 with opposition and confrontation in reverse. So interesting. Pluto energy is so prominent here. Pluto. Scorpio, Pluto. Scorpio. Oh my God. Okay. Another way you might be able to ascertain, like, when you meet your soulmate, if you can get their birth information. I just started learning about Destiny Matrix charts like last year, I think. And so I did a compatibility chart between like myself and my boyfriend, and our center zone is number 13, which corresponds to Pluto and Scorpio. It's one of the more challenging aspects. So when you look up information about like, oh, what does this mean in a compatibility chart? You're going to have a lot of people who are like, that's a really difficult placement. Could be a lot of breakup, makeup. I would also say that's possible. But if a couple is willing to heal themselves in the process, or if they are healed enough, it's just a constant flow of change, and persistent growth. So if you can get their birth information, and if you can go and look up Destiny Matrix charts, you might find that your middle compatibility number is 13. Just saying. So let's get some specific information on the boundaries you can set. Aha ha ha. All right, we have got the Ace of Wands, and we have Justice. Yes, Justice. This is not playing any games, is what I'm getting. And I feel like these are boundaries you could potentially be setting either for yourself or for partners. If you have kind of responded in arguments very heatedly, or with like trying to manipulate the situation, or becoming very obsessed with like your own point of view, or even like potentially just ghosting somebody. One boundary I think that you'd be setting for yourself is to say, okay, we're not going to do that. We are going to operate from a healthier place when it comes to confrontation. We are going to learn how to communicate. We're going to learn how to listen. We're going to learn about our triggers so that we can learn how to manage them. And if this is about you setting a boundary for somebody else, this is you telling them, like, I'm not accepting this behavior. You know, I'm not dealing with somebody who ghosts me and then comes back 2 weeks later. I'm not dealing with somebody who's going to call me names. I'm not dealing with anybody who's going to obsess over me and stalk me and require, like, need me to prove who I'm talking to or who I'm with, where I'm at. You know, we're not raising our voices. So this is very much about, my boundary is that I will treat people with respect and with integrity when during heated exchanges or arguments or disagreements, and I am going to expect that sort of treatment in return. I am no longer accepting behaviors that are demeaning of me. I am no longer catering to somebody else's insecurities, and I'm no longer even catering to my insecurities. Like, I want a healthy relationship. I want a relationship where we trust each other and where we get to be individuals and where we can express ourselves because we feel safe. Ooh, God, I love it. And then an expectation that you can set to help you get closer to meeting this person or to identify this person. We have Imam Koali with Root. Okay. We have the Five of Wands in reverse. Oh my God, I love this, guys. Okay. What this tells me is that an expectation you can set is making sure that you are understanding your foundation and what foundation you want a relationship to have. What are the principles your relationship should be based on? And what kind of partner are you looking for? And with the Five of Wands in reverse, what this is telling me is that you are no longer trying to fit incompatible people into your life. That's not happening anymore. You know, if there are people who match certain criteria that you need as a partner, but don't match other criteria, you're not going for it. You know, there is no sacrifice here because you realize what you are worth, and you realize that in order for there to be a healthy relationship, you know, and it's also not just respecting yourself, but it's also respecting the other person. Like, if I settle my expectations, for instance, like, if I would have said, well, okay, I want somebody who is a leader and wants children and wants to get married and wants, you know, and is monogamous, who's open-minded. But then let's say, as somebody who is very leftist in American culture, if I was with somebody who was a conservative, because of how passionate I am about my stances, that would have been a huge clash. I don't care if they would have wanted children, they wanted to get married, they were monogamous, they were a leader, whatever. If those political convictions of ours are mismatched, that's going to create disharmony in the relationship. Just like, for instance, if they met every other criteria of mine, but then they were like, well, I want to be in an open relationship, or I'm poly. You know, there's nothing wrong with either of those relationship types, but that's not what I want. But if I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess, like, not that big of a deal, then because it's not a situation that I'm comfortable with, it could create hostility, you know? So by establishing our expectations, by establishing the roots that we need in a partner and in a relationship, and by rejecting circumstances and relationships that don't meet those criteria, we're respecting those other people as well as we are ourselves, because we're saying, you know what, this just isn't a good fit. I don't want to cause you any unnecessary drama or any strife. So at this point, I'm just going to say my goodbyes. And so then when you do find the person, oh my God, when you do find the person who is just everything that you realized you needed in a partner, and you're like, holy shit, like they exist. I tell you guys, it's what I did, and it worked. It took a while. It absolutely took a while. But, whew. But I'll tell you what, it worked. Okay, so now finally we're going to get information on your first meeting, whether this has already occurred or is going to occur, and we're going to see how this hair tie plays into that. Okay, please provide me a clear description, of this sign that will occur at group 1's first meeting, first encounter with their soulmate. We've got the World in reverse. And it's kind of interesting because this is a circle, so it kind of makes me think of the World. We've got the Four of Swords. And then we have the Six of Swords in reverse. Wow. And then we've got the Eight of Wands in reverse. So what this tells me is that there's going to be a delay in communication, my friends. But you're stuck on them. So I'm there's that song where it's like, ooh, stuck on you, come on, baby, I'm like stuck like glue or something. And that's what I'm thinking of. It's like, this makes me feel like being wrapped up in somebody. I just saw 3939. With the World in reverse, something is not complete. So it could be that if this is like an online connection, someone sends a message, but the other one doesn't respond. Even in text, it's like after a first date, someone could, you could send a message to them and you might not hear back at first. This Four of Swords to me talks about this rest period. So maybe there is a delay in communication because the app was deleted or there was struggle, like an issue with the signal. Could also be that someone just needs time to process things, or at first one or both of you don't really know how you feel about the situation. This also indicates to me, because we have the Six of Swords here in reverse, there's no moving on. Like, if you meet this person and you're like, I don't know. You might try to get them out of your head, or they might try to get you out of their head, but it's not going to help. At some point, there will be a reconnection. There's going to be a lot of mental energy here, a lot of thinking about each other, even if there's a lack of communication for a while. And so eventually that is going to incentivize somebody to reignite the connection. Or if there's an issue with like the signal or whatever, and the person who sent the message is finding that maybe they're getting a little bit annoyed, they're getting a little bit upset, and they're like, maybe I should just tell them, forget about it, or maybe I should block their number or whatever. There's going to be this hesitancy to do so. And then at some point they'll realize that there was some type of internal interference, and that's why that they didn't get the response. Or the other person was just really busy at work, and so there's going to be a delay in communication. There's going to be a struggle in putting aside the thought of the other person. That thought is going to keep coming back, and eventually the two of you are going to enter back into each other's lives, and you're going to realize, like, oh my God, this was for a purpose. So group number 1, I really hope that this resonated with you. If it did, please let me know how in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to be a part of the family but haven't done so, you can always hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know whenever I upload a new video. If you're interested in a personal reading, once again, my information is in the description box down below. You can go ahead and shoot me an email and I will send you a list of my services. Have a wonderful day. Hello, group number 2. If you chose the marble tea bottle here, marble soda, excuse me, then this is going to be your reading about how you can tell if you've met your soulmate. So, if you know me, a lot of times when I choose like a sticker, a charm, a stone, what have you, I incorporate that into the reading itself, which I will, but that will occur at the very end. For now, we are going to go through these cards here. Each of these cards represents an aspect that we talked about in the very introduction of the video. So we have the sign that yourself will indicate you've met your soulmate, the external sign that you've met your soulmate, the sign from your partner that they are your soulmate. And these are kind of like advice cards. So we have the boundaries that you can set and the expectations you can set that will bring you closer to your partner and help you identify who that person is. Now, when we turn over each card, we will then get a little bit more specific information using the tarot. And at the very end, we will look at a specific indicator that will occur the first time you meet them or has occurred the first time that the two of you met if you're already in connection with this person, to give us a little bit more insight. I turned them all over just because I want us to focus on each topic individually, so we're going to flip them over as we go. Group 1 was really fun, so I'm so excited for you guys. Okay, so this is the sign that yourself will indicate that you have met this person. So this is card number 34, and it is North Node with Future. Okay, so we are going to get some more specific indicators to give us some context about this card. This feels very Star Wars to me. If anybody here loves Star Wars, or you're currently like watching Star Wars, reading Star Wars novels, maybe you recently went to or are going to like the Star Wars universe in Universal Studios, this could be an indicator. This is your pile. But all right, let's get on track here. Universe, can you please offer specific information about this North Node card and how it relates to the sign from Group 2's self that will let them know they have met their soulmate? The sign from their self. Okay, we've got the Hierophant here. So the North Node talks about future. It's uncharted territory. It's about forward movement, kind of like some people might consider it like our current life's destiny. And so the Hierophant is also about tradition. It is about institutions. For some of you, you may actually have like a psychic premonition. You may be dreaming about this person. You may even have like a spiritual advisor who, not necessarily me, could be somebody else who gives you more specific information about who this person is, or gives you an indication that this person is coming. You may, in general, be... For others of you, You may be completing the construction of your ideal future. So, for instance, if you have had specific goals of like where you want to live, maybe there's a city or a country you've always wanted to move to. This would indicate that you are given that visa to move to that country, or you find an apartment or a home to rent, or you close on a house. If there is a career path that you've always wanted to achieve, this could indicate getting accepted into a program. This could indicate getting an acceptance letter, like an offer letter from a very specific company. This could also indicate graduating with your bachelor's or master's. Specifically for some of you, this could be like a doctorate degree. There's a future that you have envisioned for yourself, and now it's gone from your imagination into reality. There's a sense of a strong feeling of accomplishment, and almost as if your life is complete. Almost. I think with this kind of energy, there isn't necessarily this feeling of lack. It's more, okay, so I'll take that back. Your life is complete at this point. Not complete as in it's over, but you're satisfied. You're happy. You feel like you've overcome any hurdles that you've experienced in the past, and you have achieved the major goals that you've wanted. Or at least one of the biggest goals that you have placed for yourself. If you are a writer, for instance, you could publish a book. This is something that's very, for those of you where it's not like having premonitions of your future, having dreams of your future, or receiving like psychic guidance about it, this is very contractual. This is a commitment. This is the completion of and the achievement of a goal that has been in your mind for quite some time. Now we're going to look at, which is so interesting. No, it's not. It's not. I mean, it is. Because sorry, my brain was like, well, I can see how this would be a sense, like a sign from the self, if it was like a psychic thing, like you're having visions and everything. But like, if you're getting a house or something like that, wouldn't that be an external? No, because you made it happen. That's where it was going with that. You made it happen. Something like all the hard work that you put into it, you've accomplished. So we're going to look at the external signs here. This could come in the form of like the universe sending you signs. Could be a chance encounter. Could be other life circumstances that are a little bit more outside of your control than whatever this indicates. And we have Leo energy. Okay, so I'm a Virgo, and they always say that like Virgos and Leos are so incompatible. And I'll tell you what, I don't believe it. I don't. I will say, I think Leos and Virgos have a lot in common. I mean, they're next door neighbors, So there's some overlap in the transition. Sometimes Leos can get on my nerves a little bit, but I also love them to death. I also have to say that because my boyfriend's a Leo. So we're going to see the external circumstances. And it's interesting. We have another fire element here. And we have, it is the Knight of Wands in reverse. So Leo energy is very loud. It's very boisterous. It's somebody who, whether they are seeking it or not, enters it, like gains the spotlight. It's a very passionate energy. It can be very dominant. It's kind of like the fame seeker, within the zodiac, I would say. And it's interesting that we have the Knight of Wands in reverse. What this tells me is that there's going to be some sort of recognition that comes your way that you didn't go out searching for. You didn't initiate it. So, for instance, if you move to a new city, if you move to a new country, this could come in the form of the locals in the area becoming very interested in you. You're drawing in a lot of attention. People are greeting you as you walk out the door. Maybe the work environment is a lot friendlier than what you were expecting or what you were used to. For instance, I have a friend who, she's a teacher, and when she had gone into teaching at our hometown, she just found the atmosphere very petty, very cliquey. She didn't like it. It was honestly kind of a depressing situation. When she moved with her family across the state and she got into teaching within that school district, it was like a complete switch. The other faculty members, the other teachers, the other staff were just so much more friendly. She ended up, meeting her life partner and growing her family. And so it was like just this complete shift that occurred because of the location. She moved. That was literally it. And so you could be experiencing that, where people just kind of gravitate towards you. There's a lot more friendliness that is extended towards you. If the dream that you achieve has something to do with like a business, if you've applied for a business and you gain the position, it could be that you catch the eyes of like the competitors, and so you're gaining a lot of attention from other companies who are interested in kind of like snagging you, or you get it within the company and you get a promotion that you didn't even expect, you weren't reaching for, or the offer ends up being like for money greater than what you anticipated. Could be that if you have like your own business, you just start out like, and maybe you kind of just started trying to market and you haven't even really been able to put all that much effort into it. And all of a sudden you've got this clientele that's just really coming in. They're so excited for your business. They saw the storefront walking by and they decided they had to have a peek for whatever reason. Or some of their friends were recently in and had nothing but, good things to say. Or if it's like an online business, they just came across the material and it just like resonated with them. It stuck with them. It was exactly what they needed, exactly what they were looking for. It could be that romantically you are experiencing an influx of interest. People are just maybe finding you more alluring, finding you more attractive and desirable, and they're approaching you more often. There's something magnetic about you and it could be because, you've got this confidence in your success. You've hit that milestone and you're just radiating this positive energy because people can feel that, even if they're not spiritual, like they can feel that. And then a lot of times we're exhibiting subtle social cues, by our facial expressions or by the promptness in which we respond to people, or the tone of our voice. You know, people can tell if we're not having a good time, if we're not feeling good about ourselves, or if we're really just happy with where we're at in life. And so it could be that you are subtly indicating to people like, hey, I'm feeling great about myself. And because you're feeling great about yourself or your circumstances, other people are feeling great about themselves or their circumstances. It could also be that because you reach this milestone spiritually, metaphysically, however you want to look at it, the universe is just kind of bringing in this influx of success and this influx of attention, because they're like, okay, now you've got the space for it. Now you're in the right position for it. We're going to see now what sign your partner will give to you to indicate that they are the correct person, that they are your soulmate. And we've got 55 with transits and climate in reverse. So one thing I am noticing is we have several 5s in succession. So 555 could be significant. I'm not going to take it, but we have the sun here, which is beautiful, more Leo energy. And 5s can be kind of a disruptive energy. It's what comes after, you know, you've built a level of stability. And that could indicate like, whoa, too much attention or too many options. I don't know what to choose. I can't keep up with all of this. And this could be the person who is like unfazed by it. They could kind of be helping you through that stress of overabundance. Or they might be the person who, you know, if you feel like you get this influx of attention and then it kind of dwindles after like the novelty wears off, they're still here. I'm getting all that a little bit early on, but I still want to see what specifics we have here. So what specific sign will group 2's soulmate give them to indicate that they are the soulmate? Ooh, this is so many. I'm not going to take them. But we had strength there, which is also, again, lots of Leo energy. Okay, so what specific sign will group 2's person give them to indicate they are their soulmate? The 9 of Wands in reverse. And that is actually very beautiful. So I do feel that supports what we were talking about before we pulled this card, which is that in situations where maybe the attention dies down or the success kind of fades a little bit, this person is going to be a rock for you. They are going to be somebody who doesn't change as the climate itself changes. You know, if this is like you have a business or whatever, maybe this person comes in, and even when you start to see fewer and fewer and fewer people coming in through your door, this person is going to continue to show up daily, weekly, every couple of weeks. Probably because they want to see you, but I think also because they would, if this does have to do with a business, they could be genuinely interested in the services that you have to offer. If this is about attention from like suitors, this would be the person who remains consistent. You know, they continue to call you, they continue to court you, they continue to maintain like a certain level of attention and appearance and ethic. You know, because sometimes people will try really hard the first few dates or whatever, and then after that they just kind of give up, like, I caught them, you know, or there's no need to impress anymore. I feel like this is somebody who would continue to put their best foot forward and make sure that they're well groomed, make sure that they are showing you adequate attention. And, if this could even be like, if this just starts off as a friendship or like a coworker thing where maybe everybody's like really excited to meet you at first, and then like the attention kind of dwindles from the community. This is somebody who would continue to engage with you. If you have a cubicle, they would still stop by like every shift or whatever and chat you up or sit with you at lunch. Or this is somebody in your neighborhood, they would see you and they would greet you every time and have genuine conversations with you. This could also indicate that this is somebody who would make transitions easier for you. This might be somebody who, if you do experience feeling overwhelmed, or if like relationships in the past have been very difficult to navigate, maybe there was a lot of butting of heads or circumstances that were outside of either of your control caused a lot of interference. This is going to be a person that you don't experience that with. I think they're very mature. There's somebody who has a lot of emotional intelligence. There's somebody who is, I think, able to, I don't know why I heard the word negotiate, but they're good at like compromising. They're able to see their needs and then see your needs and able to find a harmony between them. And I think this is also somebody whose life is at a point where it mirrors your own in a way, so it won't cause a lot of interferences or interruptions. There aren't going to be, I think, a lot of obstacles to conquer with this person. And I think that's going to be a breath of fresh air. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at what boundaries you can establish to get you closer to this person or to help you recognize this person a little bit better. We have card number 51, so another 5, and it's conjunction with alliance. I'm thinking, conjunction, junction, what's your function? I want to double check what that was. So this is about this is in the challenging aspect. Oh, yes. Okay, so this card talks about, this is one of the ways in which like the planets within your chart can be positioned and how they can interact with each other. And so alliance is all about being complementary but still maintaining a high level of independence. So let's see what more specific details can you offer about this boundary group number 2 can set. And so, okay. Very, very good. Okay, so we have the 2 of Pentacles, which is about balance and decisions. The 7 of Wands in reverse. And then the Emperor here. So the boundary to me, group number 2, is, and this is a boundary I think that you can apply to yourself and to any other person who may be a potential partner for you. When the conjunction card is in reverse, it can talk about forgetting who we are and forgetting our independence and kind of over accommodating another person. And so with this boundary specifically, we've got the 2 of Pentacles here. That talks about a choice, and it's a practical choice, okay? And it's about balance. I think this card is particularly sweet. You know, we've got these two young kids being drawn by goats in this little carriage, and like he's kind of giving her a kiss, and she's all like, "Eh, whatever." And she might be pushing him away. I think she's pushing him away. She's like, "I'm trying to drive here. Let go." The Seven of Wands in reverse can be about putting down our defenses, and the Emperor is a very masculine energy of standing tall in our identity. So the boundary that I feel that you are setting is making sure that there is a sense of individual identity within the relationship. I feel that you don't want somebody who is going to kind of like absorb your personality, and you don't want to be somebody who shrinks yourself for someone else. You might have lessened your light for others in the past, but for a lot of you, I do feel that it's the first example I gave is the primary one, where you want someone who stands tall in their independence, and isn't like solely trying to be what they feel you want. And so when I was talking about this and about being adaptable or being good at negotiating or compromising, if that made you cringe, just know that this person doesn't do that to an extreme. I think this person is very confident in who they are, very secure in who they are, and is able to maintain their own identity. But I think they're also pretty relaxed, where they don't necessarily have a rigid idea of like what path a relationship has to take, or you know, how a date has to go, how an interaction has to go, what a family has to look like. I think that this is somebody who can see the value in a variety of methods and expressions, and they can appreciate them for what they are. I think this is somebody who would have their hard limits about things that they will not accept or they will not do. But for the most part, I think that they're just pretty chill, you know? They're like, okay. But they're not somebody who I feel would try to blend into whatever they feel you want. Otherwise, if that's not necessarily a concern of yours, I think the boundary you have is that you need a partner who accepts that you are independent, that you are a strong force of your own, because obviously you have done or you will be doing something major in your life that you have always wanted, or you're seeing these visions for yourself, like if you're having these premonitions and stuff, and you may have dealt with partners in the past, or even family members or friends who have really tried to dictate who you could be and who you should be, or maybe just didn't accept parts of yourself. And so your boundary that you can place is just saying, like, I am who I am, and I need a partner who respects that. I need a partner who supports me in my independence and in my adventures, and I need a partner who doesn't try to change me, who doesn't try to tell me that I'm not good enough or that I'm too much. Because I feel like for a lot of you, you may have a strong personality. You may be hyper independent. And I think that this person is somebody who will love that about you. And if there's any qualms they have, I think they would be able to come forward in a way that is mature and appropriate, and is just an expression of themselves, you know, and not necessarily like a judgment of you. So what expectations can you set now is what we're going to look at. We have card number 13 with dignified strength. And we caught a glimpse of the strength card earlier. So lots of Leo energy. They could be a Leo. You could be a Leo. And then we have Sagittarius with expand, number 9. There could be prominent Sagittarius placements here as well. Or the month, let's see, July and August could be significant, and I'm terrible. Is it November, December? I think that's Sagittarius. Those months could be significant for when the two of you meet or met. So can you give us some specific information about some expectations group number 2 can set to help them get closer to this union or to recognize this person? Okay, we've got the 3 of Wands in reverse. And we've got the 10 of Wands. So first and foremost, we got a lot of fire energy here. There's a lot of passion, a lot of intensity, a lot of creation and movement. So first and foremost, one thing that I was really feeling when I was dealing out these cards was you need a partner who supports you expanding. I think that's the expectation you need to set for yourself and for a potential partner, is somebody who is willing, no, okay, willing sounds bad, but somebody who supports your expansion. And the card dignified with strength in reverse talks about making sure, like, well, I don't want to put words in its mouth. Let's see, was it 13? Yeah. Okay, yes, is it maybe tempting to take over? Yes, it's time for you to shine, but bring everyone along with you rather than dominate them, or you may be left high and dry once this game is over. Oh, okay. So first of all, I think you may want to set the expectation of somebody who would support and potentially participate in expansion with you. So this could be, maybe you want somebody who would be a business partner, somebody who would travel with you, because Sagittarius is an energy of learning and exploration. You know, somebody who may be interested in trying new things. That could be sexually too. Who knows? Maybe, you know, I get it. If the bedroom has gotten stale in previous relationships, that can be very frustrating. Could be something like, you know, you need somebody who is ambitious, and at the very least doesn't try to stop you from growing. You know, this is, I think, somebody who recognizes that you thrive on improvement and expansion and growth. And you need somebody who supports that, if not only, like, if they don't just participate in it. Somebody who is going to give you that freedom. As somebody with a Sagittarius moon, like, I cannot stand feeling like I'm being pigeonholed. Like, I am being told what I can and cannot do, who I can and cannot talk to, where I can and cannot go. Like, that doesn't work with me. And if you've ever felt restricted in the past, whether in relationships or maybe like by personal beliefs and ideologies, like if you grew up in like a really religious home where it was like very fundamentalist and it was very restrictive on you, you need somebody who is going to nurture and encourage that exploration in you and that sense of adventure. I was a little bit confused here because, I would have thought that the Three of Wands would have been upright, because that to me talks about expansion as well. It's taking an idea, making it a decision, and growing it. It's not complete yet. It's not stable, but it's growth. But what I understand here is the expectation of like not overstepping boundaries. You need somebody who respects your boundaries. Is what I'm hearing. Somebody who respects when you've said, okay, I won't do this. I'm not ready for this. This isn't the direction that I want. That could be creatively. That could be in the relationship. That could be with the way, a family is created. And it just reaffirms to me what we talked about with this dignified strength card in reverse about, not trying to take control. I think that an expectation that can be developed to get you closer to this person or to better identify this person is maybe where the control is equal, because you guys are just on that much of the same page. And nobody is trying to push too far one way. You both respect when the other one has limits, and then you both encourage and participate in the evolution of the self, of the relationship, of the expression. So now what I want to do is I want to take this little bottle here. We're going to see what happens, right, the first time the two of you meet. And we're going to see how this bottle plays into, is it spin the bottle? I don't know. I never actually did play spin the bottle. Did you guys play spin the bottle? I don't know. I didn't have enough friends to do that. But so something. Well, that was rude. That was rude. Oh my God. Oh. Okay, I'm going to accept this, but I want a little bit more. So we have the Sun here. We have the Seven of Swords. And then we have the King of... the King of Wands in reverse. I want a little bit more information. And I was just saying no way because like this is kind of like a dinner party. And when when I pulled this one, I was thinking of like, oh, having a drink together, or dining together. Okay, the star. Oh, that's beautiful. We got the sun and the star. Can I get some clarifiers? Some clarifiers on my clarifier. Okay, we've got the, can't really see it. It's too light. Got the Empress underneath. That. Got the Queen of Pentacles. We've got the Chariot. No, I'm not taking all those. I have my limits. And then we've got Judgment in reverse. Okay. So there's something that happens. Oh, we have the King of Pentacles right here. Oh, and the Wheel of Fortune. There's something that happens. It's like the birth of a new idea. Because we got the sun, and the sun is often seen as like conception, right? It could be related to whatever this North Node and Hierophant cards, these cards are about. And there's group number 2, there's this lack of confidence, right? There's a sense of nervousness. There is a sense of doubt. And which is understandable whenever we put something out there, because it seems like it's something very, very important to you. Whether it's the new job, a new business, being a new person in town. Like there's this excitement, there's this hope, there's this freshness, but there's also this level of uncertainty, this kind of doubt of like, oh shit, like what'd I get myself into? Am I good enough for it? Am I like, But meanwhile, there's this like this sense of pretending, right? This sense of pretending of confidence and of stability. The 7 of Swords is about hidden things, deceit, lies, trickery. And we've got the Queen of Pentacles. It could even be, though, so I'm seeing 2 scenarios. It could be that you feel like you meet this person and there's this kind of excitement there, right? But you're not letting in on that. You're not entertaining them that much. You're just kind of like playing nonchalant. This could also be feeling nervous about a new scenario. But we've got this King of Wands here in reverse with the Chariot, which is interesting to me. The King of Wands in reverse is somebody who I would say isn't very bold. They're not the one taking command like what you would expect the King of Wands to. The King of Wands in reverse is somebody who you might know they've got something going on in their brain, but they're not revealing their cards, right? You can feel this level of intensity. I want to see what this Chariot is about. Okay. The 8 of Wands in reverse. So it's kind of like they're somehow moving the chariot forward, but at a very steady pace, or they're not moving the chariot at all. They're letting you kind of take control. But not because they're like submissive or anything. But it's just because like I think they want to see what you'll do. And there's the star here with the Judgment in reverse. So it's kind of like a hope of a new beginning with uncertainty. It's interesting because the first pile, I got a very clear scenario. So I feel like for some of you, if this is like someone who enters into your business or someone you meet out and about, this is somebody who I think might offer, like ask you if you'd like to have a drink, and you do go out with them. And you're feeling excited, but you're not really like letting it on too much. And you're also kind of feeling nervous because it's like there's this little spark of hope in you, but you're like, I don't know. And so it could be even after having this drink, right? That you walk away from the situation and you're like, I did have a really good time. I don't know if it's really going to go anywhere, but yeah, like I enjoyed it. If this is more of like a group setting where you guys meet for the first time at like work or with other friends or something, it could be that the two of you kind of give each other like this silent attention. I wouldn't be surprised the two of you were like looking at each other but not really interacting with each other. But there's this interest that peaks in the both of you. And you're not really letting on how interested you are in them. And they're not really letting on. But I think there's kind of an understanding between the both of you. Like, okay, this could go somewhere. So, group number 2, I hope that this reading resonated with you. If it did, please let me know how in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up, especially since I got fingernails on my thumbs. Pretty fingernails. Cheap fingernails from the store. Not professionally done. And if you would like a personal reading, you can contact me. My contact information is in the description box down below. I can get you the information about my prices and my services. And if you'd like to become a part of the family but haven't done so, you can always hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know whenever I upload a new video. Bye. Hello, group 3. If you chose the sofa that says sofa, so good, then this will be your reading on how to know when you've met your soulmate. If you have been with me before, then you'll likely know that I generally like to use stickers or stones or charms as a way to I incorporate them in some way. I'm gonna adjust this a little bit into the reading, and I will do that, but I will do it after this. Ha ha ha. So these cards were all chosen to fit into categories, as we talked about in the beginning of the video. So here, this card will represent the signs from yourself to indicate you have met your soulmate. These cards here will indicate the external circumstances or signs. This will reference the signs delivered by the potential partner or the partner to show that they are your soulmate. And these two cards here are somewhat of advice. This one will represent the boundaries that you can establish to get closer to your partner or to discern if that person is your soulmate. And this one will be about expectations you can establish. I've laid them all out like this so that it's less distracting and we can just confront each conversation down the line. As we flip them over, we will also be using tarot to get more detailed information about that category. And at the very end, we'll look at something that occurs or did occur the first time you meet or met to better help you understand if you have met your soulmate, or how you like it, whether all right, let's just get started. So a sign from yourself. We have card number 31 with Juno and relationship. Now, Juno is an asteroid. And while I'm still relatively an astrology newbie, I've really become interested in asteroids, and we often look at Juno as like the asteroid of partnership and marriage. Juno, I believe, circles around Jupiter. It might be one of the moons. And in Greek mythology, Jupiter references Zeus, so then Juno would be Hera. We are going to look at a specific detail related to this card, so we're going to get some clarification. Can you please offer specific information on this Juno card? The sign from Group 3's self when they meet their soulmate. Okay. We have the Tower card here. So it's interesting that when we're talking about how you'll know you meet your soulmate, or that you have met your soulmate, and we've got a card representing relationships, partnerships, marriage, and it's in reverse. And then that's clarified even further by the Tower card. This to me can symbolize a lot of things. You might meet them shortly after a breakup, and I think it would be a breakup that you initiated. You know, you realize at some point that you are connected to somebody that's not compatible with you, even if they're like a good person. You realize that they're not the partner that you want to build your life with. Or it could be that you recognize, you know, that you've been in a toxic relationship or a stagnant relationship, and so you initiate a breakup. I think this is also a time when you not only realize like you don't need a partner, because you currently might be going through a situation, or you may have recently gone through a situation where you were just feeling very lonely, very disheartened about love, feeling very rejected, and having that sense of rejection impacting your self-worth. You may be somebody who has always craved partnership. And I think around the time when you meet the person that is your soulmate, you've not only just kind of decided or embraced, you know, singlehood, but I think you've also stopped searching for it. I can see for a lot of you, if you are like actively dating, for instance, if you're on dating apps, that's when you delete your accounts. You delete your dating apps. If you've been casually seeing somebody and it's just not going anywhere, that's where you kind of break off the casual interactions. And this is a time frame where you really make the decision that you are going to focus on yourself. And as somebody who has been told that often by other tarot readers, by my own readings, just even in conversation where people are like, you know, you'll meet the one when you stop searching. I know how frustrating that can be. You know, it to offer some perspective, and I think this is probably a reiteration. If you've watched a lot of like tarot readings, this will likely be a reiteration of things that you've already heard. But sometimes when we're so focused and we get burnt out on the dating scene, you know? And so we might stick around in situations that really aren't a good match for us because we kind of settle, or we just don't really want to put the energy into getting to know someone new. There is, honestly, I've experienced like dating fatigue, where it's just kind of like you're going through the motions of going out on dates, getting to know people, starting new interactions, experiencing the fallout of like being ghosted or connections just not working out. And it gets really frustrating, and sometimes you get to a point where you're like, I just need a break. Like, I'm not doing this right now. And I think that's where you get to when you meet this person, is you've just kind of decided, like, I'm taking myself off the market. This is kind of bullshit. I'm frustrated. I don't want to do this right now. I'm deleting my apps. I am cutting off casual connections, or like I'm ending toxic relationships. And I am choosing to remain single. I am choosing to focus on myself. So we're going to look at external circumstances. You know, this could be something coming in. This could be signs from the universe. This could be a major life change. But we've got 47 with the 9th house and exploration in reverse. We've got card number 50 with 12th house, introspection. And then we've got card number 41 with 3rd house, communication. I'm going to give you a little spoiler. Okay, the majority of your cards that came out are related to houses. I'm not proficient enough to really describe what a house embodies in a birth chart. It's kind of like a category. So like the 4th house, a lot of times I believe it is that we look at like home life. The 12th house, a lot of times we look at like areas where there's a lot of death and rebirth and transformation. But it could be noteworthy that your soulmate is going to have you and your soulmate, like when you look at your synastry charts, there could be some very important placements related to each other's houses. And so if you get like the feeling that maybe you've met the person, or you've met a person that's very compatible with you, if you can get their I know people make jokes about this so much, where they're like, Mom, what's my birth time? And the mom will be like, stop talking to that girl. But surprisingly, I've met several men who know their birth times. It's kind of crazy to me, because like I didn't know my birth time until I started doing like looking more into astrology. But I'm like, is this just something people know? But you know, if you do have the ability to get their birth information and input that into a chart, I would recommend researching your placements in some of their houses and their placements in some of your houses, and seeing if there are any significant indicators. But I digress. We shall continue. So we've got exploration in reverse, introspection, and communication. We're going to get some finer details on that. Okay, so can you give us some specific information? Okay, the 8 of Swords in reverse. the Seven of Pentacles. And the Hierophant in reverse. So some external things that could be going on in your life, some external signs. For some of you, you may be going through therapy. And I think what this relates to is undergoing a session where there is some kind of really groundbreaking conversation that occurs. While I would also very strongly consider going to therapy as being part of like an internal sign, because that would be like primarily a decision of yours unless it was like court ordered or something. The topic that the therapist brings up would be more of an external circumstance. And this could relate to how you can deconstruct maybe belief systems or expectations you have regarding the process of building relationships. The Eight of Swords in reverse talks about kind of setting ourselves free from a mental prison, right? And the Seven of Pentacles is all about patience, about sowing the seeds, about putting in the hard work. And then we've got the Hierophant in reverse, which talks about breaking free from tradition. So if you do go to therapy, this is the therapist approaching you about like, what are limitations you are placing on yourself? Like what do you think you have to be as a partner? How do you think someone else has to approach you? What does a relationship look like to you? Are you following too strict of like traditional guidelines, traditional expectations? What is the narrative you are telling yourself about how this journey has to look? This could also be in a different area of your life. If you are struggling because you are pursuing something, whether it's the feeling of like self-worth, your body image, a career path, the concept of success, and if you've really limited the ways in which you can achieve that. I think this could also be, and I want to be a little cautious saying this because as we know, the internet specifically really caters to what it knows we are interested in. Like that's the whole point of an algorithm. It sees the patterns and then it delivers content that relates to those patterns. But if you're seeing like a lot of videos or a lot of posts that are encouraging you to expand outside of the box, I would say that would be a sign. And especially like if you may be somebody who, I think we call it like clairaudient. If you feel that like as you're listening to television shows or movies, you're listening to conversations or you overhear conversations, you're listening to songs, to audiobooks, and I would even go so far as saying like if you're reading books, these are things that can't necessarily be catered to you via an algorithm. If you're using digital media to accrue these things, then yes. But like if you're listening to the radio, if you are reading a book from your shelf or whatever, and you really connect with something that is being said, where it's to the point of like, sometimes what will happen to me is I'll just be jamming out to a song, and then there's this line that just sticks out to me, and it kind of takes me out of that pleasure zone, and maybe kind of being on autopilot where I'm just like, yeah, I'm just enjoying music. And then there's this line that sticks out, and I'm like, holy shit, that was a message for me. Like that stuck with me. That was something I was supposed to pick up on. Someone could also be gifting you like a book, a self-help novel, a pamphlet that's about kind of like a motivational speaker, or a therapy course. And even though we've got like exploration, it's in the reverse, which would talk about like not going really too far beyond. This card specifically talks about trying to reconcile the differences we see outside of our comfort zone, outside of our traditional community, with the realities that we've experienced within our communities. So it's not that you're not exploring. It's just there may be difficulty in adapting a new worldview, a new perspective, or reconciling two differences. And we have this introspection card here. So even though this is a card that talks about the self, the things about that you're thinking and you're feeling, with all of these cards together, it's as if information is being brought to you for you to consider. Excuse me. So the sign that you will receive from the person that they are your soulmate. We're going to look at now the 6th house, sustainability, Virgo energy. It's also worth noting that we do see a lot of 4s here. I think there are even some more 4s down here. So that's all about building a strong foundation, right? That's the base of your relationship, the base of your empire, the base of your sense of self. So the 6th house rules like routines, daily routines, and your nervous system, right? So let's see what we've got here. We've got the 4 of Swords in reverse. Oh God, yes! With the Hermit in reverse. I love that. Okay, so with the 6th house here and this pose, this really makes me feel that this individual is somebody who is fairly enlightened. Not in like the hipster, like fake guru kind of enlightened, but somebody who has a lot of wisdom. They're able to see other perspectives. There could be a strong sense of like earth or air energy here. And the 4 of Swords in reverse is about coming out of a period of rest. It's getting back into a sense of activity. And the Hermit in reverse is somebody who has isolated themselves and done a lot of introspection, right? They've learned a lot. They've studied a lot. They've asked the questions, and now they're ready to come out and apply that information, okay? So this could be somebody who if you've gone through like therapy or whatever, you recognize that this person embodies a lot of the healing qualities that you and the therapist talked about. Maybe you previously noticed that you were interacting with people who were stagnant, people who had a lot of wounds that they weren't actively healing. I'm trying not to use buzzwords too much. And it makes me realize how difficult that is. But, and I've talked about this in a previous video, I feel like relying too heavily on buzzwords can really take away the depth of the meaning of a conversation, of an idea, because it becomes a placeholder for a meaning, right? And so it's important to kind of allow ourselves to try to use different language so that we're constantly actively aware and not falling into like an autopilot. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But, you know, you might come out of this circumstance, or you might be in this circumstance, right, where you're in the process of healing. You know, you're reading the self-help book, or you're going to therapy, and this person comes into your life and you recognize, like, oh, you know, this person seems like maybe they've learned how to embody the same things that I'm working on, right? You know, if we're talking about, oh God, there's a book that I started to read. I don't even know if I still have it, but it's a relationship self-help book. And it's like how to argue less and love more, how to fight less and love more, right? And the whole premise of it is it creates like these scenarios where you identify what the struggle in the communication is and how to counteract that struggle. And the beautiful thing about this book is it recognizes that two people within a relationship are not necessarily going to be equally committed to reading this book and practicing it, you know? And so it encourages the readers to, even if their partner doesn't read this book with them, to still practice the techniques, because the way in which we approach situations can influence how other people respond. I mean, it's basic psychology. Like in psychology, you learn about the concept of I statements versus you statements, right? So if I go to someone and I'm like, man, you didn't even take out the trash. Like, that was so inconsiderate of you. That can put the person on the offense, right? And so instead, how you can approach a situation is by framing it around a need that you have, right? Like in the form of an I statement. Like, you know, I was really struggling. I'm really struggling today with all of the chores, and I would really appreciate it if you could take out the trash for me. Or like I was just feeling really overwhelmed because I had so much to do, and I was upset that the trash was still there when I got home. And so how that impacts interactions is that when we frame it as an I statement, that allows a space for another person to see really the emotion as the experience, as the focus, and not feeling like they're being attacked, not feeling like they're being blamed, but because defenses can really intercept communication. They can really block intentions. You know, sometimes I think we would like to think that it doesn't matter the way that we communicate, that our message is received regardless of the words that we use. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case. And so this book was just a really great resource to read about how I can't control my partner, right? But how can I control my behaviors in a way that may nurture easier discussions with my partner? And so I'm sorry, I'm forgetting on that tangent. But if you've read a book like that or something, and you're having a conversation with this person, and you notice like, hey, they're using those techniques, right? Like, you see the qualities in them that you've been learning about, and they're actively expressing them. If this could also indicate somebody who remembers things about you, right? So this could be somebody who, even if this isn't about like emotional healing or the psychology of communication, this could be like, you mentioned one day your favorite color is orange, and they remember that later, and maybe they get you like, I don't know, an orange birthday cake or something, or they get you a balloon and it's orange. You say you hate a certain type of food, and maybe you've had in the past a previous partner who just would take you to a restaurant that served that kind of food frequently, and either because like they really liked it and they wouldn't sacrifice that for you, even on like to just enjoy that by themselves instead of taking you there, they would decide like, we're just gonna go, I like this food, you can find something. Sometimes maybe they did it because they were being vindictive or claiming that they were just forgetful, and you notice that when this person takes you out on dates, orders in, whatever, they're never choosing a restaurant that serves that kind of food primarily. And it sticks with you because it shows you that this person really recalls things about you. They pay attention to you. They see what matters to you. Whether it's something big or whether it's something small that you don't even think is significant. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so flippin' beautiful, group number 3. So now we're going to look at advice on what boundaries you can set to help you get closer to this person or help you to better discern when you've met this person. And we've got Saturn in reverse with structure. I guess. So we've got the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. We've got the 9 of Wands. We've got the Hanged Man. We've got the World in reverse. And we've got the Knight of Swords. So with this many cards, I feel like this indicates that you've had a very big struggle in your life and in your previous relationships with potentially trying to force situations. Kind of like if you see a stone wall and you think you have to break through it instead of realizing that you can just go around it. So the Knight of Pentacles in reverse can talk about not having a plan and not being committed to something, which makes sense for the 9 of Wands being next to it, right? Because the 9 of Wands is all about pushing through difficult times. It's about taking this long journey. But then we've got the Hanged Man here, which is about looking at different perspectives. The world in reverse can talk about when cycles are incomplete. And then the Knight of Swords, it's interesting that these are framed by two knights. The Knight of Swords upright is more about communication. And about thought. And Saturn is about structures. And in reverse, that's the challenging aspect. And so it says, be careful not to cling to old conceptions of success or hold on to a brittle system that restricts potential and leaves people discouraged. So I feel like what this is saying is that a boundary that you can place is that you are not going to hold on to outdated expectations or processes. You're not willing to accept restrictive behaviors from a partner. So somebody who is controlling is not going to work for you. I feel like for some of you, this could also talk about setting boundaries, about conversation, learning that there's a healthy way to converse and debate, and then recognizing when thought processes, whether it's within yourself or within a partner, and communication tactics are manipulative. You may have dealt with somebody who did a lot of gaslighting, and you're no longer accepting that. If there can't be a sense of equality in an experience, then it's not for you. You don't want it. You may have, especially since we've talked here about breaking free from like really traditional concepts, you may have been heavily influenced in your lifetime by strong senses of tradition, and I think you're no longer subscribing to that. You may see the ways in which certain aspects of tradition are beneficial, but I think you also understand how restrictive tradition can be, and you won't be bound by traditional expectations. And there's this sense of, if things get hard, not giving up, right? So looking for different opportunities. You can't allow yourself to just throw your hands up in the air or have a partner who wants to walk away at any indication of an argument or a disagreement or a struggle. There is a certain level of commitment. Even though we talked here about there not being a commitment, these cards can indicate further down here of just, needing to have the freedom and the commitment to looking at different perspectives and different opportunities. So we're going to look at what the expectation is that you can set. So we've got 39 with first house, arrival in reverse. That is Aries. So what expectation can group 3 set? What expectation can group 3 set? We've got the High Priestess in reverse and Temperance. I don't know why I have these. We've got, I'm just going to look at these just in case. Oh, we got the Fool, the 7 of Wands. Okay, so that's talking about a new journey, setting boundaries, protection of the relationship, protection of yourself. We've got the Chariot in reverse with the Moon, which can talk about not making any major decisions or any movements when things are uncertain. So waiting for clarity before making decisions. the Nine of Pentacles with the Eight of Wands in reverse and the Five of Swords in reverse. So building a strong foundation for yourself, feeling confident in yourself, not trying to force anything, just kind of going with the flow. If that makes sense to you, if that's important to you at all, I hope that that was helpful. But anyway, the first house is how we present ourselves, right, to people, how we want to appear, how people see us. And it's in reverse. So it says the challenge is to see beyond the shallowness of appearances, see behind smokescreens, and take responsibility for how you are perceived. And so we've got the High Priestess in reverse. The High Priestess in reverse is somebody who is upfront. She is clear in her communication because in the upright, she's kind of mysterious. Like she's super connected to her intuition and to the universe, and she holds all these like mystical secrets. In reverse, I would say, especially in this situation, she is maybe not as connected to like higher learning, but she's upfront about that. She doesn't pretend to be. She may not try to be so mysterious. She could be more of an open book. And we've got the Temperance card here too, which is about moderation and balance. Is Temperance Aquarius? I know the star is Aquarius. I can't remember what Temperance is. And what this can talk about is, I feel like a boundary you can set is, not a boundary, sorry, an expectation is that it's okay not to know everything. You may be somebody who, and that makes so much sense considering that message that we just delivered. Delivered like a baby. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to still have questions. It's okay to be uncertain. It doesn't mean that you have to blindly accept the situation, but it's this learning to be okay with uncertainty. And allowing yourself to get to know the other person without shutting someone out the minute that something comes up and you're just like, I don't know about that. Like, you may be somebody who has like what is it? Like an avoidance attachment style, which that can serve a purpose. Obviously, if we're getting bad feelings about something or someone, it's important for us to listen to that feeling. But yours may be an overdrive. And so you may be very quick to reject ideas or reject people, reject situations for some fear of like failure or toxicity, and sometimes it may not be the reality of the situation, So I think this is really setting the expectation of giving yourself time and space to learn instead of expecting yourself to know everything right away. You could also need to set the expectation of I'm going to move more slowly. Maybe partners in the past have wanted you to move really quickly. And so your expectation is like, we're going to move more slowly. I may not reveal as much about myself as I used to. I may wait longer to be intimate, or I may wait longer before I invite you over. I may wait longer before meeting your kids or you meeting mine. I may wait longer before identifying us as something exclusive, but giving yourself time to really explore the circumstances and be comfortable at a slower pace. So now we're going to see, it's kind of interesting because this sofa is so good, and I'm just talking about like counseling up here. A lot of times when we think of like therapy sessions, we think of lying down on a sofa. We're going to see what has happened or what will happen the first time that you meet this person. That can be an indicator of like, this is the one, and how this sofa fits into it, right? So right off the bat, you know, a sofa can indicate like social situations. Could be the therapy office, a waiting room, friendship. So describe to us something that occurs the first time group 3 meets this person. Okay. The Ace of Wands in reverse with the Eight of Swords in reverse. So what I'm getting here between you guys is that there's going to be quietness or a lack of action. You know, you could go to a movie, for instance, if this is like a blind date, or you guys meet online, and you decide, hey, let's go out for a movie. And you might not be so worried about like, oh, should I try to hold their hand? Should I lean in? You're comfortable just sitting next to them. If you go out to eat, like as a first date or whatever, and the conversation lulls, you're not feeling worried about it. You're not like, oh crap, like I just made a terrible impression, or like, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they talking? This could even be like if you guys meet in like a social setting where maybe they're a friend of a friend, you know, and you guys sit next to each other, whatever. It doesn't freak you out. Like, you're not like, ew, get away from me. And then we've got the Wheel of Fortune in reverse with the Three of Wands. And so that indicates to me that there could be something unfortunate that happens. You know, if you guys go out on a date, maybe the date gets cut short because there's an emergency or something. And instead of seeing that as like a sign of, oh, well, I guess the universe doesn't want us to be together, or like how rude of that person, just to like, oh no, it's okay. Like we can reschedule. If something unfortunate happens, like a drink getting spilled on you while you're at this party or something, you know, this person could be somebody who comes over and like helps you clean it up. You know, there's something unfortunate here or awkward or disadvantageous that happens, and either that's what brings the two of you kind of closer into contact with each other or engaging with each other, or it helps you realize that this might be the one because there's still this interest, right, in growing the relationship and reconnecting and trying again. So group number 3, I hope that this reading resonated with you. If it did, please let me know how in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to be a part of our family but haven't done so, you can always hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you upload. Maybe I should do that all the time. I don't know. That was just impulsive of me. So you know whenever I upload a new video. And if you're interested in a personal reading with me, you can find my contact information in the description box down below. Shoot me an email and I will send you my list of services and rates. All right, bye.